I've always been the how in my family, but never the what. If there's a problem, I'm the one who figures out how to fix it. If there's a bill that needs paying, I'm the one who figures out how to make it work. But when it comes to the big moments, the celebrations, the attention, the look at what we did moments, I'm just not part of the what. My name's Clara. I'm 29. I work in accounting, the kind of job people politely nod at when they ask what you do. Oh, accounting. That's nice. They don't know what to ask next. It's not glamorous, but it's steady, and I'm good at it. My younger sister, Jessica, is 26. She's the golden one, at least in our family's eyes. She's got this charm about her, the kind of presence that pulls people in. When she was a kid, she'd walk into a room and instantly have everyone's attention. Teachers adored her. My parents adored her. Meanwhile, I was, reliable, quiet, the one who did her homework without being told, the one who remembered to feed the dog, who knew where the spare batteries were, who made sure everyone had what they needed before we left the house. It sounds harmless when you put it like that, but when that pattern follows you into adulthood, it's like you get typecast in a role you never auditioned for, and they never let you out of it. When I graduated college, I didn't take a gap year. I didn't backpack through Europe. I got a job offer 2 weeks before graduation, and I took it. It wasn't glamorous, junior accountant at a mid-sized firm, but it was stable. I thought my parents would be proud. They were, briefly, but their attention snapped right back to Jessica, who had just announced she was finding herself by moving into a downtown loft with friends to work on her art. That loft, the rent was double what she could afford. Guess who helped her out for the first few months until she got settled? When I say I've been the family's safety net, I mean it literally. When Jessica's car broke down during her brief stint working at a cafe, my parents couldn't help her financially. They called me. She's finally got a job she likes. We can't let her lose it over a repair bill. I paid the $2,000. She quit the cafe 2 months later because she wanted more creative freedom. Then there was the candle business. This was probably the first time I really realized how skewed things were. Jessica got obsessed with the idea of starting her own artisan candle line. She had mood boards, packaging ideas, brand names. She lit candles all over the house for inspiration. The only thing she didn't have was money. Mom and Dad hyped her up endlessly. You just need a little push, sweetie. Once people see your candles, they'll fly off the shelves. I was that push. $5,000 from my savings, money I'd earmarked for a vacation I'd been planning with friends. The business lasted 2 months. She decided she hated the logistics side of running a business. The leftover candles sat in boxes in my parents' garage for years. It's not just Jessica, though. When my dad got a letter from the state about a potential fine for his contracting business, they didn't hire a lawyer. They called me. Clara, you're so organized. You're good with this paperwork stuff. Can you just look into it for me? I canceled a weekend trip, spent 3 days calling offices, writing letters, figuring out what was needed. I fixed it. Saved him thousands. The thank you? Couldn't have done it without you, kiddo, said while he poured himself another cup of coffee. And then there's the fund. When my grandparents passed away, they left behind an investment account. Not huge, but significant. Enough to make a difference. The trust said it was for the family's future security, and somehow I ended up as trustee. I had the legal authority. I had the login credentials. My parents called it our safety cushion. And over the years, they dipped into it constantly. Jessica's car after her accident, the fund. Mom's kitchen renovation because she deserved to enjoy her space, the fund. Once-in-a-lifetime vacation to Italy because life is short, the fund. And me? I approved it all. I told myself it was what my grandparents wanted. I told myself I was fine living in my modest one-bedroom, driving my old Corolla, making my own coffee instead of buying it. But deep down, every time I logged in and moved that money out for someone else's emergency, something in me shrank a little. Still, I kept going, because that's what I do. I fix things. I didn't even realize how invisible I'd become to them until last year. I'd gotten a promotion at work. Nothing crazy, but it came with a pay rise and more responsibility. I called my mom to tell her. "That's nice, honey. Oh, did I tell you Jessica got invited to this exclusive art retreat?" By the time I hung up, we hadn't even finished talking about my promotion. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I didn't need the fanfare. And then the Tuesday. I was at my desk, going through expense reports, when I felt this sharp pain in my lower right. At first I thought maybe I'd eaten something bad, but it got worse. A lot worse. I broke into a sweat. My hands shook. A coworker saw my face and said, "You look terrible. I'm taking you to the ER." The doctor said it was acute appendicitis. It had to come out immediately. They put me in a hospital bed, started an IV. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant and something metallic. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. My heart was pounding. I picked up my phone and called my mom. She answered, her voice distracted. "Clara, honey, can I call you back? I'm in the hospital. They say I need emergency surgery." There was a pause. "Oh my God! Are you okay? Is it bad? Wait." I heard laughter in the background. Music. Voices. Then Dad came on the line. "Sweetie, we're just finishing prep for Jessica's surprise weekend. Remember? She got that promotion. We rented the lake cabin. Everyone's here." I stared at the ceiling tiles. I need surgery. Tonight. "We'll come as soon as we can. Just hang in there, okay?" They didn't come. I went into surgery alone. When I woke up in recovery, the machines beeped steadily. The curtain around my bed swayed slightly when a nurse walked by. My throat was dry. My abdomen ached. No one was there. The next morning, I called them. Mom answered, cheerful. "Oh, Clara, honey, how are you feeling? We wanted to come last night, but you know how upset Jessica would have been if we left before the big dinner. We'll see you soon." That afternoon, I scrolled through Instagram. Jessica had posted a group photo. My parents, aunts, uncles, all of them around a bonfire, smiling, holding drinks. The timestamp? The same night I was in surgery. I set my phone down and stared at the wall. Something in me changed. When I left the hospital 2 days later, my body was slower, but my mind, it was sharper than it had been in years. They hadn't visited, not once. They'd sent a short get-well-soon text in the family group chat. Jessica added a heart emoji. That was it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just saw things differently now. For so long, I'd justified their behavior. I'd told myself they loved me in their own way, that maybe they just didn't know how to show it. But the truth? Love is not ignoring someone when they are in a hospital bed, scared, alone, and cut open. I was done being their safety net. The first week at home, I still moved slowly. I shuffled to the kitchen, sipped broth, dozed on the couch. My stitches pulled when I laughed, not that I had much to laugh about. On the second week, I felt well enough to tidy up. That's when I saw it. My filing cabinet, second drawer from the top, the one with the folder. The folder I'd kept organized for years, the trust. I don't know why I opened it that day. Maybe I needed a distraction. Maybe I was ready to stop avoiding the truth. The papers smelled faintly of ink and old envelopes. The trust document was thick, pages crisp from lack of use. I sat at the kitchen table and read slowly, line by line. The wording was straightforward. As trustee, I had full discretionary control to ensure the long-term security and well-being of the family. And for years, I'd interpreted that to mean give when they ask, sacrifice when they need, put them first. But now, I saw it differently. I am part of the family. My security and well-being count. And if they could leave me in a hospital bed without a thought, then clearly they are a threat to that well-being. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to imagine a future where I wasn't constantly bailing them out, a future where that money could ensure my security, my ability to take care of myself, have choices, have freedom. Once the thought took root, it grew fast. I started pulling up the account online. I'd done it hundreds of times before, always with the purpose of transferring money out for them. This time, my eyes scanned the balance in a different way. I thought about my grandparents, about how they'd trusted me with this. I also thought about the withdrawals over the years. Jessica's emergency after totaling her car when she was texting while driving, $9,200. Mom's kitchen renovation because she couldn't stand looking at those old cabinets another year, $18,000. That Italy trip they said was a once-in-a-lifetime, $12,000. And those were just the big ones. There were dozens of smaller ones. I started keeping notes, dates, amounts, reasons, not because I planned to throw it in their faces, at least not yet, but because I wanted to remind myself I wasn't imagining this. I wasn't making them the villains in some drama. This was real. By week 3, my stitches were healing well. I could walk without pain. My follow-up appointment went smoothly. And that night, I sat down at my laptop. It was time. I logged into the account. My fingers didn't shake. The balance sat there waiting. I initiated the liquidation. It wasn't instant. I had to confirm my identity, answer security questions, click through several "Are you sure?" warnings. But each step felt like removing a brick from a wall that had been holding me in place for years. Then I opened a new account, a trust in my name alone, protected, structured in a way that no one but me could ever access it. When I clicked Confirm Transfer, a strange quiet settled over me. Not guilt, not fear, just stillness. I closed the laptop, made myself a cup of tea, and sat by the window watching the streetlights come on. I slept better that night than I had in months. It was almost 3 weeks later when the first call came. Dad, cheerful, casual. "Hey, kiddo, we've got a little situation. The roof's leaking again. Figure we'll just tap the fund and get it fixed before winter." I took a breath. "I can't help with that." A pause. "What do you mean? Just log in and—" "I can't. The fund, as you knew it, doesn't exist anymore." Silence. Then Mom's voice cut in, sharp. "Clara, what did you do?" "I acted in accordance with the trust's terms. I secured the funds for my long-term security and well-being. They are no longer available for you to withdraw." There was this beat of stunned quiet, like they hadn't processed it yet. Then Dad said, "That money is for the family." I am part of the family. My security and well-being count. And if I hadn't acted to protect myself, then clearly they are a threat to that well-being. Mom's voice rose. "Your grandparents would be so disappointed." "No," I interrupted. "They trusted me to manage it wisely, and I have." I hung up before they could say more. The fallout started the next day. Jessica called first, her voice already breaking into a cry before I even said hello. "Clara, How could you do this? You've ruined everything. You know Mom and Dad can't handle this kind of stress right now. This isn't about stress. It's about boundaries. It's about me not being used anymore. She gasped like I'd slapped her. Used? Are you kidding? We're family. We help each other. I almost laughed. When I was in the hospital, where were you? That's not fair. It was my promotion party. People flew in. It was important to you. I understand. This is important to me. She hung up on me. 2 days later, I got a string of texts from Mom. Clara, please be reasonable. This isn't what your grandparents would have wanted. We've always counted on you to keep the family together. You're tearing us apart over money. I didn't reply. Then came the voicemails from Dad. His tone shifted from frustrated to pleading. Just think about the bigger picture, kiddo. You know the house is falling apart. What do you expect us to do? Your sister's going through a tough time with work again. She could really use some help. Each one reinforced the same thing. They saw me as a resource, not a person. After a week of this, I sat down and wrote one email. It had an itemized list of every withdrawal they'd made from the fund over the years. Dates, amounts, reasons, totaled neatly at the bottom. And at the end, I attached a scanned copy of the clause from the trust to ensure the long-term security and well-being of the family as determined at the trustee's sole discretion. And I wrote one final paragraph. You taught me that my well-being wasn't a priority. I've simply decided to agree with you. This decision is final. Do not contact me about this again. I hit send, then I blocked their numbers. I thought I'd feel elated, victorious. Instead, I just felt free, quietly free. I went for a walk that evening, the air crisp, the leaves starting to turn. For the first time in years, I didn't feel that weight, the constant readiness to fix someone else's mess. And I knew I wasn't going back. It's been months since I sent that email. The silence is still strange sometimes. For years, my phone was never really off, not in the sense of being powered down, but in the sense that there was always an open channel for someone to reach me if they needed something. Now it's quiet. No urgent, can you just texts, no late-night calls about little favors. It's amazing how much mental space that frees up. At first, I didn't know what to do with myself. The habits were so ingrained. I'd get home from work and instinctively check my phone for a problem to solve. But there was nothing. So I started filling that space with things I'd put off for years. I took a pottery class at the community center. My hands got messy with clay in a way that felt almost rebellious, like I was allowed to make something useless just because I wanted to. I signed up for Italian lessons online. I'd always wanted to learn another language, but there was never time. Now, there was time. On weekends, I'd get in my car and just drive. Sometimes to the coast, sometimes into the mountains. No destination, no agenda. I could decide in the moment. It was intoxicating having that kind of freedom. The money from the trust wasn't an endless fortune, but it was enough to give me security I'd never had before. I opened an investment account in my own name, set up a long-term plan with a financial advisor, and tucked away a portion in a high-interest savings account for emergencies, my emergencies. For the first time, I knew that if something happened, a job loss, an illness, I wouldn't have to beg or scrape or sacrifice everything else to stay afloat. And that security, it changed the way I thought about everything. It was about 4 months later when I saw Jessica. I was leaving a bookstore on a Saturday afternoon when I heard my name. I turned, and there she was, walking toward me. She looked the same. Perfect hair, that casual, I just threw this on outfit that probably cost more than my month's rent. She said, "Jessica, we need to talk." I considered walking away, but something in her tone, not quite anger, not quite pleading, made me pause. She launched right in. "Mom and Dad are in a really bad spot. The roof's worse, there's water damage, Dad's business is slow, they're drowning." I didn't say anything. I let her fill the silence. They miss you. We all do. Look, I know things got tense, but you could help them. Just this once. Just enough to get them through this. The old me, the Clara she'd always known, would have caped, but the old me had been left alone in a hospital bed while they toasted marshmallows at the lake. I met her eyes. "When I was in surgery, you didn't come. They didn't come. That was your choice. This is mine." She flushed. "That's not the same thing." "It's exactly the same thing," I said quietly. She shook her head, muttered something I couldn't catch, and walked away. I didn't call after her. After that, the silence became permanent. No more chance encounters, no more attempts to reach me through mutual friends. And slowly, I realized I didn't miss them the way I thought I would. There are moments, sure, holidays, birthdays, where I remember how it used to be before I became the family's problem solver, before I became a role instead of a person. But those moments pass. Last month, I took my first solo trip abroad. I went to Italy. It wasn't just a vacation. It was a deliberate reclaiming of something. My parents' once-in-a-lifetime Italy trip had been funded by the trust, with my approval, while I stayed home and covered their bills. This time, it was my turn. I wandered through Florence, ate gelato on cobblestone streets, stood in front of the Duomo and felt small in the best possible way. I thought about my grandparents a lot on that trip, about how they'd trusted me, not my parents, to manage the fund. I think they'd be proud of what I finally did. People sometimes talk about revenge like it's this loud, dramatic thing, shouting, burning bridges, big scenes. But the kind of revenge I took, it was quiet, surgical. It wasn't about destroying them. It was about removing myself from their reach, about finally putting my name at the top of my own priority list. It's bittersweet. I won't pretend otherwise. There's a version of this story where my family realizes how they've treated me, apologizes, and we rebuild something healthier. But I've stopped waiting for that version. Instead, I'm building something else, entirely. The other day, I found myself going through old photos, family vacations, birthdays, graduations. I noticed something I'd never paid attention to before. In almost every photo, I was either behind the camera or off to the side. Always there. Never centered. That's how my life felt for a long time. Now I'm learning what it's like to step into the frame. When people hear this story, they sometimes ask me if I regret it, if I wish I'd handled it differently. I don't. Because the truth is, this wasn't just about money. The fund was just the clearest, cleanest line I could draw. The real change was internal. Deciding that my well-being mattered enough to protect. And the funny thing is, once you make that decision, it becomes a lot easier to make every other decision. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't listening. You stop justifying choices that are about your own happiness. You stop waiting for someone else to give you permission. I'm not naive. I know my family tells their version of this story to anyone who will listen. In their version, I'm cold, selfish, ungrateful, the child who turned her back on the people who raised her. That's fine. Let them tell it that way. Because I know the truth. And the truth is that for years, I gave them everything they asked for, and when I needed them, they chose not to show up. They made their choice. I made mine. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe one day there will be a conversation, an attempt at reconciliation. Maybe not. But until that day comes, it will be on my terms. Until then, I'm living in a way I never did before. For me. I still have the email I sent them saved in my drafts folder. I don't need to resend it. I just like knowing it's there. That final line I wrote feels like a truth I want to keep reminding myself of. You taught me that my well-being wasn't a priority. I've simply decided to agree with you. I'm not their safety net anymore. They thought I was just the family's accountant. They forgot I was also my own most important asset.